Hello everybody, my name is Mika, and I go by the username MahoPoint. How has it been? I've decided to bestow upon you my 5-year-long guide to tackling your video game backlog. This is going to be a recap of how I gained power over the course of 5 years in order to tackle my own backlog, and why I ultimately chose to do it again a second time. This will cover only the tips and tricks that I have learned over the years, and I won't inundate you with any of the personal journey stuff. I felt like the beginning of a new year would be perfect for this type of video, so here we are. Without further ado, let's get into the course of the matter. First, let's get some of the pink elephants out of the room. What is a backlog? A backlog is a list of unfinished tasks, yada yada yada, you get the drill. Chances are, if you're here, you've seen people talk about this. Some of these people don't think backlogs exist. If you're a type A personality like me, or the type who feels a lingering regret looking at the pile of games that you have, then you know that feeling you get when you look at so many piled up is real. That feeling is your backlog. What we don't want is to let it consume us, but guide us towards the simple goal of getting the things in it out of the way. I am of the mind you should control your spending during this period. This is always the hardest part, but if you keep rewarding yourself with too many games, you'll definitely never see the end of the road. The goal of beating a backlog of games is its own reward, and you shouldn't set yourself back too much. You are allowed to play games you just bought before continuing with the backlog. You are allowed to set games down. In my guide, however, you are not allowed to ever completely put games down that you don't like. Like a bitter pill, you need to swallow these games in order to personally figure out your own tastes, why a game doesn't resonate, without some outraged content mill guy telling you why you shouldn't. If you see yourself gaming less or enjoying yourself less, ask yourself why. Legitimately analyze the reasons why a game dev studio chose those characteristics. These quote-unquote bad games will help you be more discerning in the future when choosing games, is my hope. And finally, there is time spent playing games. My prescribed 2-hour a day, 14-hour a week gameplay session will not work for everybody and every situation, but if you want to get past your backlog of games, you need to put down the Netflix subscription. You need to think yourself out of the loop of constant content slop and just focus on games. Do not beat yourself up if you don't meet your targeted playtime per week. Do not binge just to catch up. The goal is to play at least a few days out of the week, at the very least. This is a marathon, not a sprint. Now let's get on to the things that I learned, which, speaking of sprints, training arc. You need to train your brain before you're ready to tackle your backlog. But what is training your brain? Do I mean picking up brain age? Do I mean studying? Do I mean not taking games too seriously until you're able to beat them properly? Why yes, in a way I do, except for that first one. Please put your DS down. You see, in order to prepare for a marathon that will be consuming a fraction of our lives for the next year, or 5, we need to build up healthy habits in our hobby. This doesn't just go for video games either. This goes for any hobby you want to approach. Want to build Gundams more efficiently? Want to get better at that CG you just picked up? Want to get better at drawing? Try your hand at track? Want to get better at public speaking? Then putting aside this training time will help you figure out your role as whatever you like more seriously. So how do we start out training? For me, it was beating short games first and not worrying about using any save states or guides if I got lost. Now listen, I know what you've been told. Save states are for lamers, not gamers, and guides are for noobs, not chads. But first, we must just get the arbitrary things out of our mindset, or they will consume us. I am approaching you as somebody who probably hasn't beaten very many games, if any at all. If we start playing games to beat them without getting into practice, then we will immediately lose all motivation at the start, as if we had never had it to begin with. The proper way to play games is to have fun, after all. And if it's not fun, why bother? An artist uses reference to figure out the harder aspects of a drawing, such as backgrounds. So too should you use your time training to help you get into the mindset to finish games. By beating gradually longer games, you will start to recognize patterns and find yourself eventually relying on them less and less. Try not to abuse save states either. Try to wean yourself off them gradually as you become more confident in your ability to play a game. It's not every game is going to have them or even need them. Pick and choose your battles. Now, this section will vary on the amount of short games you have. Generally, I recommend picking the 10 shortest games that you have in your backlog. One game you're looking forward to and one game you've already played. Hopefully, all of them will be under 10 hours, but how do you even determine that? Well, there are various sites that will connect to either your Steam library, or you will have to manually input to determine what games are in your backlog and how long it will take you to beat them, what they rate at, and such. We just want to figure out the length of time it'll take to beat all the games you're planning to. So let's just put in your games at one of these sites. My own personal recommendation is howlongtobeat.com, as it is relatively intuitive and you can export your list if need be. Once we have inputted all the data, we can now determine how long our games are. If you are unlucky enough to only have long games, I suggest picking up ROMs or collections of shorter games, or subscribing to a service such as Nintendo Switch Online, in order to get this training session out of the way. Your goal for the training portion of your run is to simply beat these games, no matter how long you take, no matter if you use save states, save scum, use glitches, or avoid them altogether. As an example, the training portion of my backlog project was unorthodox. I beat 3 pretty long games before diving into it, and I beat over 30 short games, not 10 in a year. But establishing a completion rhythm now will give you a set pace to beat games in the future. Of that I can attest. You should also give yourself a time frame for beating these games. I could beat 10 games under 10 hours in a month, but you can take longer if you need to. The most important thing to do during this period is to be kind to yourself. If you need a break, take one, but try not to let too much time pass, or else you'll lose all momentum to finish your games, and again, try not to buy new games either. I also recommend keeping a physical checklist of the titles you're completing in the order you plan to complete them in, and not deviating from this checklist, even to play a new game. Remember, this is your personal training arc. You'll want to stick with it if you plan to finish your backlog. Next, we will go over what counts as completion. This varies from person to person, but if you're just starting out, I recommend to avoid 100% completion and trophy chasing methods a lot of the more hardcore gamers espouse as completion. Think of your gaming ability as a little sprout. You need to nurture that sprout to contend with things like that. Those things constitute a mastery of the game on a level the devs intend only a small percentage of their fan base to attain. Meanwhile, we want to be able to beat as many games in the first place, in this case, simply roll credits in order to get through our massive pile of games. We will get to a place where we can earn trophies as we go back and continue to play these newly found old games as we grow. For now, we want to simply beat games, and that is it. You can allow yourself to see good and bad endings in a game though. I can't really stop you. Short-term techniques. Beating many games in succession is the key to establishing a completion rhythm, but I recommend doing a gradual increase in the time frame from anywhere around 1 hour for the first title to as many as 10 to 12 hours for the last title. If you want a recommended list of titles to try out, or an overview of what such a list could look like, I suggest it looking a bit like this. Remember to factor in first completion time. Refined Self, Mega Man X, Toe Jam and Earl Back in the Groove, Azure Striker Gunvolt, Witch and Hero, Undertale, Celeste, Valhalla, Final Fantasy Adventure, Pokemon Sword and Shield. And this is a fantastic list. You got games from different genres, all under or around 10 hours to complete. These could take you longer, but generally, they're pretty easy games to grasp in a short amount of time and whip right through from my experience. So let's get to the meat of the backlog. The not so random method I would recommend. So you completed your training arc. Great for you. At this point, you deserve a reward. One game that you're looking forward to. Play it, buy it, you deserve it. If you can hold out to buy a new game for every 10 games you beat, you'll be on a quick track to beating your backlog easily. If not, you may want to try curbing your spending habits a bit, depending on how many you bought in this amount of time. I suggest taking a class on budgeting, or looking up information on shopping addiction. I can't help with every problem. I can, however, help you get into the mindset to complete games. So there are methods other YouTubers will subscribe to that will help you complete your backlog, but I don't personally subscribe to them. One of these is the spreadsheet method, where you plot everything down, including the fun to hour ratio of a game. I don't like this method personally. It's too paper heavy, and you just started to beat games. This method is just for the person who likes to put in time and effort to not waste time. It seems counterintuitive to me though. I personally just put all my titles in a randomizer and see what comes out. That's right, I just use a randomizer. I then look for games that are out of sequence, such as sequels, and put them in a corrected order so that the first game comes first, the second game is second, and so forth. This only goes for games that I actually connected though. For example, I played Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm in order, but I played Final Fantasy 7, 9, and 8 out of order in that way. I would then recommend peppering in short games. These will act as breathers for your long games. Here's an example using a modified list for my first video and my RPG Hell Arc Year 2 video. Had I known these gradually longer games would set me back so much to the point of burning me out in Year 3, it would have looked something like this. Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Mega Man X8, Final Fantasy 7, Deltarune Chapter 1, Mega Man X Command Mission, Shantae Half Genie Hero, Conception 2, Children of the Seven Stars, Celeste, Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, Elder Scrolls V, Skyrim, Final Fantasy 9, Witch and Hero, Fire Emblem Fates, Conquest, Dragon Mark for Death, Digimon Story, Cyber Sleuth, Naruto, Ultimate Ninja Storm, Fire Emblem Fates, Birthright, New Super Luigi U, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Torna, The Golden Country, Ys 8, Lacrimosa of Dana, Naruto, Ultimate Ninja Storm 2, Master Blaster 02, Fire Emblem Fates, Revelation, Xenoblade Chronicles, Future Connected, Hypnospace Outlaw, Master Blaster 03, Dragon Quest II, Luminaries of the Legendary Line, Naruto, Ultimate Ninja Storm 3, Full Burst, Super Metroid, Tales of Vesperia. This is just a prescribed list of potential games. Use it as a layout for your own list. So now we have a list of games we want to play, or need to play. I don't judge. Now we just need to start playing and beating them, just like we beat our first 10 games. In order not to get too lost, I use a games journal to write down any major events I did while I play games. Mostly, the last event I remember. That way, if for some reason I do get lost, I can look up a guide to see where I'm at in the game. Taking notes also helps. You'll want to do this so that you can offload any of the major stress of remembering from your working memory to your piece of paper. Let the paper or the spreadsheet or your journal do your thinking for you. That way you can maximize on the fun aspect of games. You are your own personal secretary during this period, and this first bout of real games is crucial to develop a healthy habit. Pick a list of 20 games this time. Give yourself any time frame to beat them within the next year or two. Allow space for new games or old games after every couple of games beat, if you must. Do not buy too many new games. Try to keep it at one title bought for every 5 beat, and your wallet will thank you. Other long haul techniques. You got what is hopefully a 2-year amount of games out of the way by this point. It could be done in as little as 1 or as many as 3, or maybe you're still just listening to this video, but you've beaten them. You're golden. How can we make sure to maximize our time spent playing games? Well, we must first look at the types of games we are playing, and if they have any special systems we can take advantage of for grinding or farming lives, stuff like that. For example, the Disgaea series has the item world, and in there are specialists that can increase your EXP yield by taming them. The Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth duology and Pokemon Sun and Moon have the Digimon Farm and Poképelago respectively. These systems can be used in real time to raise your monsters while you are busy, grinding raids in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, or trading perfectly bred Pokemon before starting your story mode will reduce your playtime. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 has a job deployment system, and The World Ends With You and Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 have resting bonus EXP. Things like that, etc. Utilize every avenue at your disposal, and you'll find yourself finishing main stories and even 100%ing games faster than average. These systems are meant to be used. Why avoid using them if they were meant to be used in the first place? Speaking of resting, planning out rest time for yourself is also important. Even just a vague concept of rest time can do wonders. Rest is extremely important. Your body will be thankful. Resting every 2 hours is recommended, though you can reduce the time to every hour or even in 30-minute intervals or so depending on your needs. I am not joking about this. Rest. When you rest and sleep, your response time becomes that much quicker, and you'll have an easier time beating things that are frustrating you. Taking frequent breaks when you hit a wall will also allow you to take time to unwind, so you'll be better prepared for it next time. If you need DLC for experience to complete a game, need to speed up animations in an RPG, or find ways to cheese a game to ignore grinding, use them with abandon and at your discretion. You will want to beat some of these games to figure more about yourself. If the game is actively bogging you down and you're not having fun, and it's not a skill issue but a dev issue, it may be just that. Think about why that is and then leave a review. You'll be in a much better position to leave a review that satisfies everyone if you think about a game from every possible angle. You may not want to spend money on an item or EXP DLC to help you in your quest, or even give a dev extra money. That is your prerogative. Remember, you don't have to do anything you're not comfortable with. Remember, if you feel like your run wasn't earned in the way you enjoyed it, you can always go back to a harder mode, or not utilize certain functions later. We're just trying to pluck out all the weeds so we can find these experiences that are worth taking at a deeper level. And by taking our time to pluck out and observe the weeds, we can see what makes them weeds in the first place, or dandelions in some cases, as some games may be lower than perfect but still hold up very well to us. For what reason are you completing your backlog? Are you frustrated like I was, or do you have other feelings or ideas in mind? Is it FOMO that's driving you? Curiosity? Resentment? All of these are somewhat valid feelings to have on your backlog, I've found. You may even feel a combination of these. If you would like to further inquiry into my backlog journey, I have videos I post up every year on this channel. You can check them out, or even subscribe if you're inclined to find out more as we figure things out together. Let's motivate each other to finish our backlogs from here on out. Thank you and have a nice day. Bye.
But that coffee is fine.
Yes. Save your energy and time for the important things like life outside of work. Remember, you don't need work or capitalism to self-actualize. Work lazy.
No interns allowed on the meeting room floor. Oh, not you again. Shenanigans.